Guys, what's up? What's happening? It's Slaughterhouse Sports. It's Kurt Magoosh, and um, we're going to talk a little bit about NFL football today. I know that there were some bowl games in college football. I know that this channel is really primarily suited for a lot of the college football, but as the NFL gets rocking here in December, we're going to have a couple of long form, like kind of episodes, just a couple that kind of just like break down what I see during the National Football League. And it's going to be fun because as we get ready to go to the playoffs, we're going to maybe get some guests on the show and we're going to do some picks and we're going to go through and separate it by chapter so that you guys can view everything that I'm thinking about in terms of the National Football League, and we could discuss it together because it truly does, represent just so many great things about, the sporting world and American football is tremendous in the National Football League. So, tonight there were two games that were absolutely epic, and I'm going to start with the main event tonight. As with college football just now, I know Southern Miss, Jackson State played a great game for sure that went to overtime, but we're going to start off by mentioning what we saw in Buffalo, and that was a snow game for the ages. That was a snow game for the ages in Orchard Park, and this is my own opinion, is that I always want to see there be outdoor football. I help out, personally and pretty involved with, local high school football. And football is meant to be played outdoors. It's meant to be played in adverse circumstances. It's a physical game. Sometimes the game can be glamorous, and there's certain franchises like Minnesota, Atlanta, even the Ford Field that has had a dome on it for a while, although I'd like to see the Lions actually move outside. But like Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, Buffalo, Orchard Park, Ralph Wilson Stadium, when the games are outside, there is something so special about having the games in the snow, about seeing the landscape, seeing the crowd. When you're in snow together, it's like when you're sledding. If you ever lived in a cold climate, it's like you're sledding when you're 10 years old, 8 years old with your friends in the backyard or with your friends and family throwing snowballs. It's just it's unbelievable. You bundle up. It's a whole experience. Everybody clusters close together. You're for the adults, they're at the stadium together, they're tailgating, they're enjoying themselves, and it's just an atmosphere that you just don't forget. The same can maybe be said for October baseball, is that when it's cold and it's December and it's a huge game and you're outside, I mean, sitting in a T-shirt and sitting in 80 degrees indoors with indoor air conditioning is one thing, but real life and just the real natural aspect of living and of, taking in just incredible memories as a human being is when we all circle around and see those environments in those cities. And that's why Buffalo Bills, and that's why I really love college football and the NFL and all sorts of sports, is because I love when a fan base, when a state, when a city gets behind a team, and that's what Buffalo's all about. It's about the snow. It's about playing in the cold weather. And when Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, Joe Shane, Brian Dable, when they were discussing who would be the focal point for the Buffalo Bills back in 2017 during that draft, and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were off of the board and they were in the market for a quarterback, they viewed Josh Allen. It was the two Joshes. You had Josh Rosen, who's the prototypical, 6'3" quarterback from UCLA, who has perfect fundamentals, where his parents were the tennis player, and he has like all of the metrics of a tremendous, refined passing quarterback. And then you have this raw, gangly looking guy who played junior college, who's a project, who then played in the Mountain West Conference in Cheyenne, Wyoming. But the fact that Josh Allen's from a small rural town, the fact that he went to Cheyenne, Wyoming, he played in those cold elements, Josh Allen absolutely encapsulates the city of Buffalo and everything about the Buffalo Bills. And there's never been a guy that's more synonymous with a city that I can remember than maybe, Giannis is with Milwaukee, or maybe John Morant with the Grizzlies. But then you look at Brett Favre when he was with the Green Bay Packers, and they had a void at quarterback. Brett Favre was that guy in Lambeau Field, if you grew up in the 2000s, that would be doing stuff like Josh Allen would be doing, making throws that only one human can really make, and scrambling around, tossing the ball. You see it with Mahomes in Kansas City. These NFL franchises, the best games are played outdoors. They're played in January. They're played in crazy temperatures. You look at Joe Namath beating the Colts back in the day. And, just so many of the great games are played in the snow. You look at like Michael Vick going in the Lambeau, or when your team goes in the Lambeau and plays a playoff game, whether it's Cowboys, Packers, or whether it was Giants, Packers, both of the Giants Super Bowl runs. So the fact that you still have cold weather games, that's probably my biggest pet peeve, is when people say that the game should all be played indoors so that you can all have bigger statistics. Because I love seeing sacks, hard hits, seeing adversity, seeing the snow happen, see how you have to hold the football, seeing how you have to play in the snow, seeing the guy sliding in the snow. Because coaching in the snow or playing in the snow, that is what's really fun. And this is still a game. This is still meant to be fun. You can have fun playing and making money at something that is just incredibly awesome. And that's what football is. And that's what these football players are doing. And tonight that those players are never going to forget. And it's because of the scenery. It's because of the fans in Buffalo. So shout out to them. And then the NFL Network did a spectacular job tonight. They don't have a lot of games now with Amazon, but they showed the fans. And Kevin Kugler, and an Omaha guy, I've listened to Kugler on 1620 The Zone for a really long time, and he's just a star. He's one of the best broadcasters around. He's usually on radio, but him and Mark Sanchez, and Sanchez is really fun on the broadcast too. So now let's talk about the game before we really set the scene for this game with the snow coming down, with Josh Allen having to mount a comeback from 8 points down against a Miami defense that was playing its guts out. The Miami defense, guys, and Coach Josh Boyer, they played, I'm just going to say it, they played balls to the wall style football. They played a beautiful, beautiful brand of football against Josh Allen. Third quarter, second quarter, they were giving Josh different looks. They were sending blitzes. They were sending pressure. Offensively, they were going play action. They were throwing it down the field. Tua was not afraid. So let's look at the Buffalo Bills. We kind of know about Buffalo. Josh Allen's fantastic. He's incredible running and throwing. He is right up there with the best quarterbacks and the best players in the league. He's probably a top 5 player in the league, all positions considered. You then have Stephon Diggs, you have Singletary, so you have a core there. And you look at Buffalo, AFC Championship, last year was really their window where if they would have, survived that Chiefs game, they would have been hosting a game to play the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl. So they've really been in the mix here the last, I would say, 3 years, but specifically this is Buffalo's peak window. So Buffalo is the peak pick right now to go to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. So we knew Buffalo was rolling. But for the Miami Dolphins, they just got absolutely dismantled the last 2 weeks. And Tua went like 6 for 1,000 against the Chargers. Herbert embarrassed Tua in terms of their matchup in terms of, oh, should Tua have been selected in front of Herbert? You know, Brian Flores wanted Tua this whole time. And then Tua was having this tremendous year, which he needed to have with Mike McDaniels. But as the weather kind of got, as you go into now December football, it looked like the Dolphins were slowing down. And they were one of those teams that was just a good October story, a cute little story, but they aren't going to be factors, you know, in the grand scheme of things. It's a cute little story. Yeah, they're putting up numbers, you know, they're putting up flashy numbers with Waddle and Hill, but they aren't a threat. They're not ready to play at the big boy table in the AFC. No way. It's not happening. This franchise is too much in disarray. Played a terrible game against the Chargers. Tyreek Hill's banged up. Their defense got sliced up by Herbert. But then you know what happened tonight? On 6 days rest and off of a Sunday night game, they just played their absolute A game, and they left it all out there. And Tua hit Jalen Waddle for that 60-yard touchdown. You know, Tua and the team drove down the field, and all day, Tua made big throws. He hit Waddle for the touchdown. Waddle got the yard after catch. The defense, I believe, got several turnovers, and Tua was able to take the ball and then hit Tyreek Hill after they roughed the punter. So Tua was laying the ball out there in the cold, and McDaniels was trusting Tua to move the football. And if there was actually blame to be placed, it would be on McDaniels on those third and shorts getting way too cute with not running the ball creatively, maybe off tackle, and not giving it to Raheem Mostert enough. The D-line of Miami, like Jalen Phillips, I believe, who's, I think, a young player. He's a tremendous defensive lineman. The blitzing, I loved how they went man, and they dared Buffalo to beat them through the air, and they got a ton of incompletions, and they went for it. When it was 3rd and 4, they'd send the house and play a lot of man, and they kept Josh Allen in control in the pocket, and then it would be man-to-man, and Allen would have to hit a 35-yarder, and they'd mostly D up, and it would be impressive. And then, unfortunately, end of the game situation, Singletary starts to lean on them because their offense, the one thing I could say about Miami is that they probably played a B to a B-plus game of offense. And considering Tua going to Buffalo, it's never been close there. It's been really ugly when he's gone to Buffalo. The fact that he's had some success, and he's still a year younger than Josh Allen, when we talk about his third year in the National Football League, and he's only, I believe, 24, going to be 25. This was just huge for his confidence, and this was huge for this team that they went blow for blow with the Buffalo Bills. And Josh Boyer, you know, schemed up just an aggressive defense. Their D-line was able to really feast on Josh Allen. They have confidence against this Bills team in this matchup. So, you know, I know Mahomes is special. I know Josh Allen and Herbert. Those are the guys that can absolutely just take over a game consistently and beat you. Jalen Hurts this year I would put in that mix. But you look at Tua and you look at this defense, and if the Dolphins get into the playoffs, it's going to be tremendous experience for Tua, for Mike McDaniel. And I'm just telling you, it's not out of the realm of possibility. If Joe Burrow, I should put in that mix. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Miami goes somewhere and their defense travels, their running game travels, and Tua can like do this thing where it's like an enhanced maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the style that Drew Brees played with because everybody kind of looks at statistics, looks at, you know, like how many wow throws can you really make down the field. Tua's just such a winning quarterback. Like, he puts the ball in accurate spots. On third down, he knows time and situation. You know, just like at Alabama, that throw that he made as an 18-year-old coming into the game. He's fearless, and in a big spot, you really give him some time. And Tua Tagovailoa is a big play player. You know, he's been this way since he was in Hawaii. His dad groomed him since he was young. That Tua on the main stage is a guy that you want to have on your team, a guy that you want quarterbacking your team because he can make the big throws, he can make the big plays. He's a winning quarterback. You can even say that a little bit, you could say that a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo, in that Jimmy Garoppolo, like, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo gets injured a lot. But when you're in a game with Jimmy, he's going to make third down conversions. He's going to keep you in it. He's going to make some wild throws that are going to keep you in the game and give your team a great chance to win. And that's what Tua does as well. And he doesn't put his defense in a ton of terrible spots. He's not that inconsistent. And when you play in a big game like that, like Tua can just make some throws. Like sometimes, it's the style that even Eli Manning was able to win 2 championships with, where I even think Tua can be more like Drew Brees than Eli Manning. I think that if Tua stays healthy, he can have such a prolific Kurt Warner, Drew Brees career where he could stay healthy. He could continue to be accurate. They could give him time from the pocket. He has these tremendous weapons. He has Mike McDaniel now, knock on wood, everything about that. And for his health, I'm just really excited about what these next, what the playoffs can be like for Miami, how they can finish the season out. Because the team I saw tonight in the third quarter, when they smacked Buffalo around and they were turning Josh over and they were forcing 3-and-outs and their defense was balling, and then you had Tyreek Hill make the big plays. You had Jalen Waddle, the running game. When it all works, they're such a dangerous team because their D-line now of Bradley Chubb, this team is capable of honestly winning a Super Bowl this year. I know it's crazy to say this on December 18th, but I'm going to say it. The Miami Dolphins are capable this year of winning a Super Bowl. You saw the Bengals get hot. This Dolphins team with this defense now and playing this well in Buffalo, I mean, who else has really played this tremendous in Buffalo? I know that the Jets, played well defensively, but Tua and that offense and that coaching staff puts it all together. And Tua's old enough in his third year where magic can happen. You saw it as a freshman at Alabama. You're going to see it again. He just makes clutch plays and keeps you in the game. We all know Josh Allen is so special. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there. Some are just tremendous big play potential guys like even Trevor Lawrence. But some play in structure. Some have the coaching staff. If it was a playoff game even, you look at Trevor Lawrence, Dak, or Tua Tagovailoa, when you're talking about a one-game playoff, I've just seen Tua do it at the college level, and I just trust him in the big moments to just keep the team in it and let them surge ahead. Just like Eli Manning is a guy that you would maybe even take, as crazy as it sounds, over an Aaron Rodgers. You would even maybe take an Eli Manning over some of the MVPs that you've seen in this league. You would maybe take Eli. I'm trying to think of who you would take Eli over. Like in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, he had one really good game against the Titans. But other than that, he's made big mistakes. He's made some turnovers. He hasn't had receivers all the way there. So playoffs is a little bit different. And Drew Brees actually not as good as in the playoffs as actually Jimmy Garoppolo. Drew Brees in the playoffs leaves a ton to be desired. He wasn't that good of a playoff quarterback. I view a quarterback in the playoffs as taking your team to a place that you're not supposed to win and winning those games and doing it year after year when you get in, stacking up playoff wins, all right? And that's kind of how I view who's great and who's not. So this game, the snow, but credit to Josh Allen. That run, the Dolphins sent too many pressures, and then the Dolphins, when they got that turnover, it was 3rd and 1, and they could have completed some touchdowns and finished drives. In the first half, their red zone was disgusting. The Dolphins outplayed Buffalo tonight. They had an 8-point lead, and they didn't shut the door tonight. And Miami outplayed them, and they were ready for them. And it's going to leave a kind of sick taste in their stomach. Now, if Miami still won tonight, the good news for Miami is that they could still make the playoffs, and the odds of them winning the AFC East with Buffalo was still pretty much slim anyway because they've kind of messed it up lately. And this is their first year of kind of like really competing. All right, so this is what I would say. I would say Miami, you beat Green Bay. You then have an interesting game in New England where maybe New England turns it up for that week. New England's an interesting team, but New England gets housed by Buffalo. See, The way that Miami played Buffalo, the way that I went to that Miami game in Miami, and Buffalo had the game the whole time, but Miami's defense held. Miami has an edge to them with Josh Boyer, their D coordinator. They have an edge with Bradley Chubb. They have an edge with Jalen Phillips. They have an edge with Howard, Byron Jones. They just have an edge with their linebacking core. Christian Wilkins is such a stud out of Clemson. He was a great draft pick at number 15. Miami has an edge to them. When you watch that Patriots-Bills game, the Patriots had no bite in them. Buffalo is just completely just taking their soul the last 3 meetings. We exclude the game where it was 20 miles an hour wind and where nobody could throw the ball, where Mac Jones threw for 7 yards. That was one of the craziest games ever. But then Josh Allen killed them in the end of the regular season in New England. And then you know what happened? They went to the playoffs, and it was the worst loss that Bill Belichick has ever had. Is in his entire coaching career was that game that night. You could argue was Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan beating him in terms of embarrassment or whatever. Or Joe Flacco maybe just kicking the dog crap out of him, but and the Ravens team who won the Super Bowl, but that Josh Allen Bills game was just the worst, probably the most miserable Belichick's ever been, because it's a video game. Like Josh Allen could have scored 90 points. So the Dolphins have the formula to actually go on the road with their D-line, with the aggressiveness of the D-line, with the coach and the quarterback and the offense, and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's played in the cold too, and he's like the best receiver in the league, or he's up there with Jefferson. He's probably second best. So credit to Josh Allen, though. Had everything going on against him. Dove for a touchdown, threw the third down play to Dawson Knox, running all over the place, making big throws, leading them down the field. And then it would have been a great decision if that ref didn't kind of like, maybe it was a hold, but I hate seeing the game come down to a penalty at the end there. So, oh my gosh, what a time in the NFL. I think the Dolphins are right in this thing, though. That was just an amazing football game. And credit to the Dolphins for making it so exciting. I know I'm not talking about Buffalo a lot. It's because Buffalo's already made. I mean, I know Buffalo has never gotten to a Super Bowl before, but they've been the kings of just dominating the regular season, of winning their division. I think this is now actually their 3rd year in a row that the Buffalo Bills have won their division. I think that it's going on 3 years now. Buffalo. Yep. It's 3 years that Buffalo's won their division in a row, and it's their 4th trip to the postseason. So Josh Allen and McDermott have been amazing for the city of Buffalo. It's changed everything, drafting Josh Allen. That's what a Hall of Fame quarterback will do for you. And again, knock on wood for his health, because I think he can get a Super Bowl, and his career is exactly like the playing career of Brett Favre. It's similar to that. I'd say he's a little different than Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers was just so prolific, and Aaron had so many chances to get to that 2nd Super Bowl. I think playing in the AFC now with Herbert, now you have Tua Tagovailoa right there. At peak of powers, you have Belichick. Still a great coach in defense. Joe Burrow. I mean, the AFC is just absolutely loaded. Lamar Jackson, young, and has a chance to come back healthy. It's a gauntlet. It really is, where Aaron Rodgers had that conference on lock and had so many chances, a lot more than even Brett Favre did in Green Bay to win a Super Bowl. So you kind of look at Favre, and he got to how many Super Bowls he got to? 2, actually. Went 1-1 in those, and then he had a couple of shots in some NFC championships. Josh Allen right now kind of on that same trajectory. I think that you look at Russell Wilson. Russell won 1, lost 1 as well during his peak of powers. Usually the quarterback, when they're on their rookie deal, gets to the Super Bowl and like Kurt Warner did, and has like 2 years where they're in the Super Bowl and they win 1 and then they lose 1 and then they probably never get back again. That is pretty much the realm of what a quarterback's all about. Like Joe Burrow is probably going to go through that same thing. he might in the next 8 years get to one more Super Bowl and maybe win one. So it's going to be so tough to truly dominate this era. Mahomes got to one and then lost one the following year. Now we're going to see what's going to happen with Mahomes. So, man, it's going to be amazing to discuss and really break down and analyze. And I can do this on a long-form kind of show like this. You know, for college, a lot of times it's baked into an 8-minute video, and it's very, very watchable. But this is more of a podcast. We're more like talking about things that are going on. This is more for a long car ride. Now let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to talk about this for maybe 10 minutes tonight as I continue to drink water here. Late on Saturday. I really do love the NFL, the college bowl games. I mean, listen, like if Florida, the thing is with Anthony Richardson, like I'm rooting for Oregon State to kick the crap out of Florida, because if your quarterback and your wide receivers, if they decide that the NFL is more important to them, like then that's fine. But the fact is, for Oregon State, they don't have guys that are going to the league. So this bowl game to them, winning it means more. And I'm happy when teams that might not have an NFL future, maybe they're just getting NIL or maybe they're not getting any money at all. I mean, the fact that they're going to the NFL, like I get it. Like that decision's really tough and I get it and I respect that decision. But I'm saying in the bowl game, for teams that have all their guys there, I want the team who wants to win more in that moment for that bowl. You know, for a team like Oregon State, it's more important for Oregon State to win that game than a team like Florida, where Florida has like a down year, the University of Florida. All right, so I'm happy that Oregon State like wins those games. And yeah, it continues to address like just that there is a problem with somewhat the product of guys opting out of bowl games. And I guess that could maybe be an entire segment that I could kind of map out, like at a later date, we can discuss what the solution can be for bowl games. And I could try to improv my way through that discussion as I usually do on this show. Usually through YouTube, I have the ability to improv my way around some of these discussions, and that's kind of what a long-form podcast is meant to do. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the NFL, but I guess in wrapping up college, these opt-outs are just, I mean, it's a problem, and these coaches have to deal with it too. So if the bowl game's really good, it's like these college players are so special to their colleges that, I mean, it's even an honor to the guy that's going to the NFL that their team sucks without them, because it shows you how valuable they are and how different their team is without them. So I kind of want people to see kind of how it's an issue and how it can be resolved somehow. And I'm not in favor of even expanding the playoff out to like 12 or 16. I want the playoff at 8, but I know that that's kind of a solution. But anyway, let's talk about Jeff Saturday. It's sad because, everybody's against Jeff Saturday. Like no one thinks that it's like totally appropriate that Jeff got the job. And I was pulling for him, to prove everybody wrong. Like I root for the guy that's usually battered and bullied by, mainstream pundits or the mainstream, opinion. And the Colts came out all effort, blocked punt, pick six, fumble recoveries, touchdowns. They did all those little things, and they made all those splash plays that usually mean you win a game, and you're up 33-0. And then they kept giving Kirk Cousins chances, and that's just Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's like a great quarterback. He's very, very consistent. He's a franchise guy. But the killer instinct or the big third down, he doesn't have the biggest arm, so he's never able to make those explosive plays. And unlike Josh Allen, who gets the job done, or unlike some of these other guys that aren't even as good as Matt Ryan, like maybe you could say Garoppolo or Tua, or even like, as weird as it sounds, like there's quarterbacks that know how to massage games and wins, like even what Heineke is doing this year in part. That's a big part of playing the position. And Matt Ryan, like even in Philly when it was Nick Foles playing against the Eagles, Matt Ryan had chances with Julio Jones to go out there and really win a ball game in the playoffs. And he did not do that. So Matt Ryan, even against the Cardinals when he was in the playoffs starting out, he had chances. I think he hosted a home game against Aaron Rodgers and got blown off the field when Rodgers went on to win the Super Bowl in 2010. So there's been numerous times, Matt Ryan against the Giants. Now, I was rooting for the Giants, but it was 24-2. So he gets his team to the playoffs, so he isn't awful. He puts them in situations to choke. When you play big games, you're in the Super Bowl, you're the MVP that year like Matt Ryan was, you're doing something right. I mean, you could just be the Houston Texans. You could just be what Jacksonville was for so many years. You could be what the Colts are right now, ironically, and not even get to a chance where you could choke in a playoff scenario. But today was just a choke, and fumbling the football, not using a timeout to settle things down. Offensive coordinator playing right into Minnesota's hands, not kicking a field goal, 53-yard field goal. The defense going in the prevent with Gus Bradley. They don't really have that good of a coaching staff. I don't know what Gus is going to be doing next year, but is he going to reinvent himself like Dan Quinn, maybe take a year away from the game, start blitzing a little more, get out of that ultimate cover 3 Seattle thing all the time? Jonathan Taylor, injured, takes a step back. Running backs are rarely ever super consistent year in and year out in the NFL. Credit to Minnesota. They kept on playing. Kirk Cousins having a great year. Kevin O'Connell's done a great job. I've liked Kevin O'Connell for a long time, and if you see him at the combines or anything, he owns the room. So he's a massive success. Their general manager, Kwesi Mensah, who's a Stanford guy, who's a Princeton guy who, came from the finance world, who's just brilliant. And it's his brilliance exceeds not only in the finance, but he's been in the football world now for a while, and he's one of the brightest, best general managers in the NFL. He goes out, he gets Hawkinson. They have a really nice draft. Jefferson's obviously been phenomenal, the best receiver in the league. So, the Vikes, I thought Aaron Rodgers would still have that division, but Rodgers fell off the cliff. It finally happened, but you can never expect it until it happens. And the Packers fell off the map, and Minnesota's just been beating Buffalo, winning games like they did today. Beating the Lions in the same way, down 13. They're the comeback kids. They're the cardiac kids. And then we're going to see what happens in the postseason with these guys, man. But, whew, what a day. Jeff Saturday, it's a shame. Unless he wins these next 3 games, even if he gets a chance to coach the next 3, got to flip the page somehow and keep working. But, it's tough. I wanted it to work, and for Jeff, what is he going to be, an O-line coach? And then how many O-line coaches are ever hired anyway? So, if Jeff even went in the coaching as an O-line coach, the Colts would probably be the only team that would ever look at an O-line coach, because even the best O-line coaches don't usually get hired to be head coaches at any level. It's usually the coordinators on offense or defense. So, it's a little sad, but Jeff got his chance, at least you could say. But it was, it's not really his quarterback or his situation. But Jeff, the problem with Jeff is that he's sometimes too risk adverse. I wish that the Colts would have looked at having quarterback competition. I wish that they'd look at opening up their offense, continuing to expand it, continuing to throw the football when, instead of just playing the run it 3 times and then punt it away, go play action on first down and shock people and hit a nice explosive so then you could get in the field goal range and put the game on ice. So credit to Minnesota, though. That was an amazing game and an amazing comeback for that football team, for that squad. So 35 minutes in the books. I'll tell you tomorrow, hopefully it's another awesome day of watching football as well. And then we'll discuss it all tomorrow. So hope you guys, took a couple parts out of this video that you liked, that you enjoyed. That's all I can pretty much hope for. And, you want to get some thoughts out on a Sunday. You want to put the pedal to the metal with recording a podcast. And I know it's a little bit late, but I wanted to take the time to kind of get this rep in for a podcast, and I wanted to take the time to do it and honor the fans of Buffalo and talk about Miami and their prospects going forward. And then, unfortunately with Jeff Saturday, it's just on such thin ice. And if Jeff would have shocked the world and they won the division, all the people disrespecting Jeff's career. And it's like Jeff is just a guy that's filling in a really tough situation, and he's giving it his best shot. And people were just so much animosity towards like an innocent guy, like towards an innocent good guy. And it would have been amazing to see him beat the odds, but he had a chance today, and then it was sad it didn't turn out that way. But great day of football, great football games, and now tomorrow could be another day as well that's really fun. So let's hope it's fun. Let's hope it's a good Sunday.